I sit down, my friend, to comply with thy request. At length does the impetuosity of my fears, the transports of my wonder, permit me to recollect my promise and perform it. At length am I somewhat delivered from suspense and from tremors. At length the drama is brought to an imperfect close, and the series of events that absorb my faculties, that hurried away my attention, has terminated in repose. I need not remind thee of what is past. Time and reason seem to have dissolved the spell which made me deaf to the dictates of duty and discretion. Remembrances had ceased to agonize, to urge me to headlong acts, and foster sanguinary purposes. The gloom was half dispersed, and a radiance had succeeded sweeter than my former joys. Now, by some unseen concurrence of reflections, my thoughts reverted into some degree of bitterness. I believed that to ascertain the hand who killed my friend, your brother, was not impossible, and to punish the crime was just. The impulse was gradually awakened that bade me once more to seek the elm where dear Waldegrave was murdered, to explore the ground and scrutinize its trunk. You know the situation of the elm, in the midst of a private road, on the verge of Norwalk, near the habitation of Inglefield, but 3 miles from my uncle's house. It was now my intention to visit it. I proceeded in its direction with speed. In a short time, I descried through the dusk the widespread branches of the elm. My eyes were eagerly bent to discover the trunk and the area beneath the shade. These, as I approached, gradually became visible. The trunk was not the only thing which appeared in view. Somewhat else, which made itself distinguishable by its motions, was likewise noticed. I faltered and stopped. I walked softly to the roadside in an attempt to elude observation and yet approached near enough to gain an accurate view of this being. Repeated and closer scrutiny enabled me to perceive that he was employed in digging the earth. Before I could make out his intentions at being thus employed at this hour and place, he ceased to dig. He cast aside his spade and sat down in the pit he had dug. He seemed wrapped in meditation, but the pause was short and succeeded by sobs. Sorely charged was indeed that heart whence flowed these tokens of sorrow. Never did I witness a scene of such mighty anguish, such heart-bursting grief. Every new accent of the mourner struck upon my heart with additional force, and tears found their way spontaneously to my eyes. All of a sudden, he snatched the spade, and rising on his feet began to cover up the pit, desirous of hiding something from inspection. Although I hesitated to advance any further, there was nothing to hinder me from calling out.
Hello? Who's there? What are you doing?
An interview and explanation were now unavoidable. I mustered up my courage to confront and interrogate this being. Where I stood, I could not fail of being seen, and yet he acted as if he saw nothing. Again, I made preparation as for an interview which could not but take place. He passed me, however, without appearing to notice my existence. He came so near as to brush my arm, yet turned not his head either side. The man proceeded with a few quick steps along the road, but presently darted to one side and disappeared among the rocks and bushes. My eyes followed him as long as he was visible, but my feet were rooted to the spot. My musing was rapid and incongruous. It could not fail to terminate in one conjecture, that this person was asleep. Such instances were not unknown to me, through the medium of conversations and books. Never, indeed, had it fallen under my own observation till now, and now it was conspicuous and environed with all that could give edge to suspicion and vigor to inquiry. Of one thing I was certain, the incapacity of sound sleep denotes a mind sorely wounded. It is thus that atrocious criminals denote the possession of some dreadful secret. The thoughts, which considerations of safety enables them to suppress of disguise during wakefulness, operate without impediment, and exhibit their genuine effects, when the notices of sense are partly excluded, and they are shut off from a knowledge of their entire condition. This is clearly the perpetrator of some nefarious deed, but to stand out here was no longer of use, and I turned my steps toward my uncle's habitation.